If you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
Yeah. We don't need a replacement because, again, disparity does not mean discrimination. All right. So our next prompt. I agree with the Supreme Court's decision to end affirmative action. So interestingly, they have the community results, and only 33% said yes. Something tells me that we would have a little bit higher of a percentage on the yes here. So again, I agree with the Supreme Court's decision to end affirmative action.
I'm not going to start. Someone else can start. Sorry.
I think affirmative action has served its purpose. I think that it was necessary for a particular time. And I think that every Black person knows how to get into college. Every Black, I mean, you can pull out the names, the Oprah, President Obama. You can pull out the head of Time Warner was Black man, the Forbes was Black man. We know what to do now. We don't need affirmative action anymore. And to me, affirmative action is offensive sometimes, especially nowadays, because I have 6 children and 2 boys, 4 girls. And all of them went to Harvard and Columbia and this one and that one. And it breaks my heart to think that they accomplished that goal of getting into these institutions just because of the color of their skin.
I can definitely say that it creates a lot of tension when you have affirmative action. I remember my first week at the University of Illinois, I was sitting with some classmates and a white student turned to me and jokingly like, "Hey, Xavier, like, did you just attach a smiley face when you applied for this college?" And I started asking what he meant. And he said to me that he was like, "You're Black. I'm assuming you had decent grades. You could have just attached a smiley face and you would have gotten into the university." So
like attach a smiley face instead of like an essay. I don't get it. But so yeah, if you're anybody else is not familiar, this was a not word for word, but you know, blackface or white supremacy. This was a literal news article. I believe it was from the Atlantic when they called Larry Elder, a Black man, the black face of white supremacy. And as you guys who are here all the time know, that that is textbook semantic obfuscation, taking words and twisting them to mean something that they don't mean so that you can win an argument. How can he be a white supremacist if he's Black?
I was livid by that, and I went off. I started naming all of my accomplishments, and I felt so confident only for about an hour. Because then an hour later, I started saying to myself, like, wow, like, did I actually earn my way in here? I started to have this insecurity, and I started wondering to myself, did I earn this position myself, or did my ancestors' suffering earn this for me?
You'll never know. You'll never know with affirmative action.
And too, I've seen it in the sense of like affirmative action taking away from other people who are minorities. Like I had a friend who was Asian and he in high school and he really wanted to go to MIT. That was his dream school. He interned there. He was super like prepared to go there and he didn't get in. And you can only assume that it was because of affirmative action because they have such a large Asian population that they want to admit other.
Yeah, I mean, Asians have to do way more to get into the same schools just because there's so many Asians who are good enough to get into this school. Again, not news to you guys. I know you know this, but it is always worth repeating that racism is alive and well, specifically within the Democratic Party. Oh yeah! Shout out to Try Guy Travels. Happy Labor Day to everyone. Hope you are enjoying your day off.
People.
Yeah, I was going to actually argue that it's more racist nowadays because it excludes so many Asian Americans from getting into universities who do deserve a spot and they can't get in because of affirmative action, which again, like you were saying, was necessary at the time. Yeah. But now it's like anybody, if you have the skills to do it and you're in America, you can get in.
I don't think affirmative action is the worst thing considering all the different types or aspects of a background you might take
This is Destiny Indie Film, by the way.
To account when somebody's getting into college, whether they were in certain clubs, you know, Boy Scouts, what type of classes they took, that might not be available to everybody. I don't think that factoring in the affirmative action is necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like because of everything you guys have said, the optics behind it are so horrible today that even if it is slightly beneficial in the long run for certain people, I think we can probably refocus most of that into figuring out like the class that people come from, the neighborhoods, the backgrounds or whatever, without it having to necessarily target race. The only thing that I kind of wonder now that it's gone is instead of a Black person being in school thinking like, man, am I here because I'm an affirmative action pick? Is it going to be a kid that is poor or a kid that's from a different zip code?
I think we should do away with all of it. It's just like submit an application, no demographics. Why do they ask your sexuality? Like, why do they ask all that stuff?
That's an interesting point, but I don't think that really follows because, you know, being poor and getting an opportunity that has to do with money is a very different dynamic than getting money because of your skin color. I think that, you know, if people who are poor are, they're aware that they're poor. Like it's not like, you know, it's unknown that they wouldn't be able to afford this otherwise. So if the person is poor and they only got in because they're poor, that doesn't mean that it's any less valuable. They still got in based on their merits. It's just the money part. Whereas when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, then you get into whatever. But I completely agree. Get rid of all of it and merit. Disagreeers coming forward. Hey, we got Doodad Attack in the building. Welcome to the party. Iris says Texas has it where the top 10% of every school is favored across the board. There you go. Merit. People who actually deserve something, who deserve the reward. People who worked for what they got. It's not complicated.
If affirmative action accomplished its purpose, why do we still see the disparities that we do in the professional workplace? If you average white wealth and compare it to black wealth totals, white people as a whole have about 50 times greater wealth.
All right, 50 times greater wealth. We'll just say in the United States, the average black and Hispanic or Latino households earn about half as much as the average white household and own only about 15 to 20% as much net worth from the Federal Reserve
Than black people as a whole, per capita. So I just don't understand why you think affirmative action has accomplished its purpose. I don't see
Curious.
that.
Why do you assume that
Wait, I thought they said it didn't, which is why they agreed with the decision to end it. That it didn't accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish.
just because there is a disparity means it's because of a racial issue?
Let's not forget, disparity does not mean discrimination. Just because there's a difference doesn't mean that it's racist.
What else would it be from?
I mean,
Upbringing, economic abilities,
Desire to
skills.
go, desire to.
So
zip
it
code
was their
does
fault
play a
then.
lot. If you grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma, you're not as likely to.
Shout out to JH. Welcome to the party. So the whites been able to be rich longer. Technically, yes, very true. And then Indie Film says, great. Now do the NBA and the NFL and the MLB.
Do as well in school, which means you're.
Why did they grow up in a neighborhood that experiences a lot of trauma?
I mean, lots of people do.
Yes,
live in
but
a-
why specifically do more black people?
Really? Really, Hunter Biden? You think more black people live in poor conditions than white people?
Government assistance programs.
Government assistance programs, like
Yeah.
what?
Try redlining.
I mean, you can go into that if you'd like to, but let's
What?
take
It
a
is
look
relevant.
at the Great Societies Act, which was created to kick black fathers out of the home and get black mothers on welfare assistance. These things aren't beneficial for economics. These things aren't beneficial for actually paving a way for success for black children and black families. I mean, reducing a 2-family household to a 1-family household isn't going to make them the richest man in the world. It isn't even going to get them out of high school. Nonetheless,
You mean
the ability
parent.
to even get to college.
You mean
Yeah,
two-parent?
the child, yes, but a 2-parent household
Yeah.
in comparison to a 1-parent household, that child is not going to be nearly as successful. That child is more disposed to being sent into prison by doing crimes or not doing very well in school. So how are they even supposed to get that, that wealth disparity shrunk if they aren't even able to get out of the community that is causing these problems for them?
Yeah, and this is always what we talk about. This is a money problem, not a race problem. There is an overlap, but that disparity does not mean discrimination. Shout out to Melted Mind Media. Welcome to the party. Another awesome YouTuber. Just did a collab with him. Definitely go check that out on his channel. Just drop the link in the chat. Welcome, brother. Welcome.
Something I think that this conversation illustrates is like affirmative action is literally the very end of the line of a lot of different parts of a person's life. And by that point, trying to rectify all of the inequities that have existed, to try to remedy any of that at the very end with affirmative action, it might
Not gonna happen.
just be too broad a brush, and maybe we'd be better served focusing on the earlier issues than trying to throw a kid who maybe can barely read at a 6th grade level into a college to hope that that's the thing that fixes the problem at the end of the line.
I think affirmative action
Base
wasn't
destiny.
really supposed to send kids to Harvard that weren't prepared to go to Harvard. I think that's
But what is the other alternative? What is the other alternative? If you're taking well, I mean, they're not children, but if you're taking kids who otherwise did not qualify based on their merit, then you exactly are trying to send kids that are not prepared to go to Harvard. That's precisely what it is. Dustin says you have to work hard out of it. Out of it. Like most of us have to. No one gave me money. Yeah, and I mean, I am very lucky to have been born into a family where I didn't have to struggle like that. And it's something that I didn't even really realize how much of an advantage it was until later in life. And that's exactly it. You have to deal with what you have. And just because I have those issues I didn't have in my life doesn't mean there's not other issues that I had to overcome. We all have our ish, and you just gotta deal with it. Be a man and deal with it. Indie Film says before the racist Johnson's Great Society destroyed the black family, things were way different. Yep. Mike W says Asians are kicking everyone's butt economically. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Jay says in life you need opportunities and hard work. That is well said. You need both. Opportunities are not as easy to come by for some people than others. But as long as you have your eyes open, as long as you are prepared to take advantage of an opportunity when it does present itself, you're good. You might not have as many opportunities. That's kind of what Destiny was just saying, that there's, different things, and some people start at different places in life, and the family that you're born into, the country that you're born into, the society that you're born into, that's all going to be, different for different people. But at the end of the day, it's the equality of opportunity. As long as you have the opportunity and the willingness to work hard, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to succeed.
Quite a myth, in fact. I think those that have the qualities to get to Harvard were, before affirmative action, were just completely overlooked.
Thank you for the likes, guys. Much appreciated.
Clarence Thomas is like the perfect example. Regardless of what you think about him, he was able to get to Harvard because of affirmative action, because it focused on finding people that were, again, like just overlooked.
But things ended up changing. It morphed into something else. So what started out as a good program of giving all black people, or people with a lesser chance or lesser opportunity, it started out as that, and then it morphed and I'm not sure who morphed it, but it morphed into, okay, so now we have to have one black, one Hispanic, one this, one that.
That's not how that works.
But hey, talk to the corporations, talk to the people who hire.
She's spot on. How is that not how it works? That is exactly how it works. There was something, I forget what it was. I think it was a show about someone somewhere in Europe, and people were all upset that the whole cast was white. It was like a period piece. It's like, bro, there just wasn't black people there. What do you want? And Evelyn says, wow, that's pretty racist to say that Clarence Thomas couldn't go into Harvard without affirmative action. And again, we will never know. I mean, seems to me like he's got good head on his shoulders. Why wouldn't he? But we will never know. Jay says Harvard is based off the character, because everyone looks the same, high grades and such. It's what stands out. Yeah, the extracurriculars, right?
Talk to the board members who say we need to have a woman on the board, we need to have a black on the board, we need to have a Latina, a Latinx, whatever on the board.
Latinx.
So it morphed from helping us into now
Tokenization.
Yes.
Yup.
So you have to have one of this, one of that.
Diversity
Well, when you start with a country where people only hire you if you're white, that's necessary. And I know that you said that it started good.
Is it though? As Indie Film brought up before, things were not always this way, and black people were there was definitely differences in society, but the black community was doing way better before all of this forced diversity came about. Jay says we need to have a black on the board. Sounds like an object.
And then ended whatever. And I don't think that affirmative action was perfect by any measure, but we still see really, really bad inequality. So if you're going to get rid of affirmative action, what's the replacement?
We don't need a replacement, because again, disparity does not mean discrimination. Again, look at the NBA or the NFL. You don't seem to be worried about diversity there. It's just the best people get the best jobs.
Meritocracy.
Is people need to
There's no
start thinking more-
meritocracy in
Yes,
this
it
country. You look at Elon Musk. He's destroying Twitter. There's no meritocracy.
Put a 1 in the chat if you think Twitter is worse after Elon. No, didn't think so.
That's ridiculous.
Well, first thing I want
That is ridiculous.
to bounce back to is it's not a myth that there are like minorities that are being put into colleges that they're not ready for. If you look at a lot of these top universities, including Harvard, Yale, etc., you're going to see a lot of minorities on academic probation because they're
That's a good question, actually. Yeah, what does Twitter have to do with this? Rich man did something, so therefore socialism. That's pretty much the logic there. I'm sure Clarence Thomas had the grades to get into Harvard. How? How are you sure? You're not. You will never know. You will never be able to know that. Let's run this back.
minorities that are being put into colleges that they're not ready for. If you look at a lot of these top universities, including Harvard, Yale, etc., you're going to see a lot of minorities on academic probation because they are being placed in universities that they are not ready for. They are not cut out for that just yet. And it even just makes sense if you look at how much they have to achieve in order to get there. Asian students on average have to score 450 points higher than a black student in order to get in the same university.
Damn! 450 points higher. So it says here from the National Study of College Experience led by Espenshade and Radford of 2009, a student who self-identifies as Asian will need 140 SAT points higher than whites, 320 points higher than Hispanics, and 450 points higher than African Americans. That's like half the damn test. That's like, maybe not, maybe like a quarter, but it's a significant portion of the entire test. I know people who got 450 on the SATs in general. Jay said, bro, if they're not ready for university, why would they apply there? Because there's a lot of benefits for having Harvard on your resume. What do you mean? You wouldn't go to Harvard if you couldn't get if you can get the chance? You can get any job in the world after that. I mean, and like, it's not really about grade point average. You know, as long as you pass, you get the degree. So, I mean, why wouldn't you? Doesn't says, you know what I mean, right? College was a brainwashing center. Hard life, I gained a lot more. Yeah. I mean, it's a very soft, squishy, soft world in college. Everything is kind of done for you. And it is good for, development in terms of getting out of your parents' house, especially the kids who kind of didn't really do much. You know, if you know what I mean? If you were a teenager and you got into some stuff, then maybe you don't really need that as much. But there's a lot of kids who were just like goody two shoes and just, oh, mommy said this, then daddy said that, and whatever. So it is good for that, but it doesn't prepare you for life. It just teaches you the things that you might need for a particular job. And so if you're not going into a STEM field, then it's just a big party. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a degree in psychology, and I loved those 4 years of partying. But that's what it was.
So if you think of the universities that have courses, et cetera, that grade on a curve, you can only have so many people with an A, so many people with a B, et cetera. So that means that the bottom percentile is going to fail. Who is most likely, just based on logic, going to be the ones failing? It's going to be the people who didn't have the credentials to get there in the first place. And then I have to bounce back to
I want to get you on that point because I
want to get you on that point. Wording matters, bro. Again, stop trying to win and just have the conversation.
I would posit that the people who are least likely to have good outcomes in an academic setting are those who have to work 2 jobs, are those who have to drive there from home because they can't afford a dorm, are those who have to go into crippling financial debt. These are and have other stresses in their life. They can't afford a doctor, they can't afford a dentist, they can't afford anything.
I had to do
so
that too, though.
Those are the
That's
people.
not just black people. It's not just.
But it's
If we're looking at
overwhelmingly
straight numbers, there are more white people in poverty than black people.
If you look at the raw numbers, but if you
I don't know,
actually
what are the
understand
wrong
what you're talking
numbers?
about.
No
The
number
issue
is
is poverty
wrong.
in general.
See, again, Chandler is being too hot. He's coming in too hot. Dude said if you look at the raw numbers, he's like, well, what's the wrong numbers? What's the wrong numbers? Chill out, bro. Chill out.
General, though. I don't think it's like who's in poverty. It's like poverty sucks. It
Maybe we
shouldn't
should make
matter
college
who's in it.
free. and maybe we want to have
If you have a
affirmative action
program-
wouldn't be that necessary.
And it'll get even more ghetto.
If you have a program that says if you are under a certain income level, this is how we'll help you, that will overwhelmingly help Black people at a far greater percentage than it will help white people.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed that clip, check out the full live stream link in the bio and catch me live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. See you there.